Hello and welcome to 4,000 and Counting. I am Watty and we are kicking off the 24-25 interview season in style. Mr. Bobby Robbins is joining us. He has just released his book, Sex, Drugs, Pucks and Souls. You, ladies and gents, may recognize him. Oh, look at that, the early plug. I love it. You might recognize him from
Obviously.
his time in Belfast in the Elite League. Obviously, you can see behind him there, you got the Boston Bruins. He did it the tough way. He did not make it into the show until the age of 32. Concussion issues obviously caused that to come to an end a little bit more abruptly than he would have liked. But yeah, Bobby, welcome to 4,000 and Counting, buddy. This has been a long time coming. We've been talking behind the scenes for a long time. The book's finally out. What a better time to do it. Welcome aboard, my friend.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited. I see there's a Belfast jersey right about there. If you can see some teal poking out.
Yeah, see your Bruins jerseys. You got some Providence Bruins jerseys there as well.
Yeah, I got some P Bruins over here. I got Tri-City Storm, UMass Lowell, Binghamton Senators. This is new here, just trying a little office background. So I've got all these jerseys hanging in the closet. I was like, might as well get those things out here. So you have to let me know what you think if you're listening in on this and watching. If it looks
Folks,
cool or not.
please do. We're gonna be seeing. In fact, Bobby's saying that right now. Gonna be changing it up a little bit of the 4,000 background as we come probably by next week here. We have a 55-inch TV up behind us. That's going to allow us to, have some YouTube on in the background. And I'm gutted it didn't happen in front of this before this interview. But imagine being able to go through your fights when they're there and talk about them. That's what we want to do. We want to give something a little bit different, what you're not really getting in the UK, and not many podcasts are doing it. So it's going to be something a little fun here. Obviously, you're now a bit of a media darling, as they would say in the UK. You're getting on the podcast, you're getting out and about, you're promoting the book. How do you find this side of the game? Like the non-playing, like the interviews, the chatting, the shooting the shit with the boys. You like this side of it?
There's pros and cons to it. I can talk. I love having conversations, like real conversations. And so I like long form podcast. I don't love social media content creation. I've only recently started taking it seriously, and I never really understood TikTok. I'm like an old man here, 42 years old, but I've been reading some business books. Gary Vaynerchuk. I don't know if you know Gary V over there. He's a big
Yeah.
social media guru. So I read his book, and he's like, man, you got to double down on TikTok. You got to double down on YouTube. So I was always a Twitter guy, X guy. So I've just been within the last 2 weeks been filming content on the ice, and I realize how powerful social media is.
Yeah.
But I love conversations. I love long form. Ideally, someday I'm going to have a social media person. I do the long form, and then they
That's the
just take
dream.
it and post it all. That's the dream. But right now, I'm grinding, bootstrapping, so we're doing it ourselves, and I'm learning. So it's a cool skill. Doesn't come naturally to me, but I enjoy learning new stuff and challenging myself. So I'm giving it a run, man.
Talking of challenging yourself, for those that do have you on social media, they would have noticed in the last few weeks here, you're back on the ice. You're zipping some cone to cone drills out there. You got a couple of bar downs. How's the body feeling? What's it like to be back on the ice?
Yeah, man, it's been feeling good. So I'm 42 years old now. I'm 10 years retired. I skated a little bit. I coached in Spain. I coached like a high school level training program for a couple years. But last 3 years, I haven't touched the ice. I've been off just working on my book here. So I got a call about 19 days ago from an old buddy of mine who played for the Bruins. He asked me if I wanted to play for the Detroit Red Wings in an alumni tournament
Yep.
for the Red Wings alumni. And I was
Yeah.
like, dude, yeah. Because I
Yeah.
grew up in northern Wisconsin. If you don't know, over in the UK, Wisconsin's here, and then Michigan's up top. Northern Michigan, it's called, or Upper Michigan. And so I'm right on a border town, and we grew up watching the Red Wings. Steve Yzerman, Sergei Fedorov. So man, everything I wore as a kid was Detroit Red Wings.
Yeah.
He asked me that, you want to play for the Red Wings? I was like, yeah, of course. And then reality hit that I hadn't skated in 3 years.
Got to get in
And
shape.
if truth be told, I'm about 40 pounds. I don't know what that is in kilograms, but I'm 40 pounds over playing weight here.
About
Let's just
17
say,
kilos.
okay, that sounds a lot
But
better
for
than
you
40
UK
pounds.
fans, we're talking about 2.5 stone here, folks. Like,
Okay, I'm about 2.5 stone over playing weight. So, you know, seeing if I'm still a young guy at heart, I got out there on the ice, and man, it feels good. I fell back in love with hockey again, and I've been on the ice just about every day, trying to skate 4 or 5 times a week. And so now I'm filming a lot of social media content, getting that going. obviously I'm promoting my book, but I realized I played 10 years pro. I got so much knowledge and wisdom up here, and everybody's always asking me to coach and for questions about this and that. So I'm developing a program here, just like a big knowledge dump, a hockey knowledge dump
Okay.
of everything I've learned for the younger generation coming up. So that's going to be coming pretty soon.
So where are you based right now?
Right now, I'm in northern Wisconsin, big cities in the U.S. I'm about 5 hours north of Chicago, just straight north.
Perfect. So there's going to be a lot of kids in the wheelhouse that are playing hockey, and they're coming up and going through, maybe trying to go junior A, maybe try to go major junior. And there's going to be lots of guys that go NCAA route.
Yep.
And you've kind of got a bit of experience of being obviously USHL, NCAA, AHL, Coast, NHL. So you've got like the good pathway for these kids to follow. What would be the age bracket that you would really like think you would, what's the right word? Help kids flourish, is it like that kind
Yeah.
of 13 to 17 window? Are you thinking get into the kids even younger than that?
I like the junior age, like 18, 16, I guess, to 20. I look at myself when I was a young man, 17, 18, just graduating high school, just starting out my hockey dream, living that out. There's so much, you're on the cusp of manhood. So that's my big thing is now is like I want to develop men how to be real men in this world, and be stand-up men, God-fearing men, and good human beings. And I think that can be taught to that age group for junior hockey players. And then you're going out there, and then you can start, fighting is a reality in junior hockey. So I want to teach guys how to defend themselves. And I think if you know how to fight, you don't have to play in fear.
Ever.
You don't have to, like, some guys can go fight, and that's fine if they want to take that route. But if I'm a skill guy, at least I know how to defend myself. If a big guy like you jumps me, I can at least hold on and defend myself. So I'm all about instilling confidence in that age group, right around that 18, on the cusp of manhood, and trying to, bring up a new generation of men who are just real stand up manly men, instead of just being, I think the world often tries to pull men into, just to be the gong show, be the
Yeah.
party guy, be the sex guy, and just not, and that I lived that life too, and got into those distractions, drugs and alcohol. And I saw a lot of destruction in my life and the lives of my friends around me. So I'm trying to bring up a new generation and inspire them to live a different way, to be set apart.
It's so different now with the tools that the kids have. I don't know what they have in North America, but I believe the program here is called Instat. So like these fucking kids are going on the ice, and it tells you where they shot the puck from, how long each shift was, where the turnovers were. By the way, I'm kind of glad that it wasn't there with it's like, yeah, you
Right.
turned the puck over 4 times in that period. Like,
Right.
but obviously we have coaches then that were looking into these things, but there's nowhere near as much depth. Also, the other thing that was slightly different than it is now, obviously technology, maybe had a little bit more fun back then. Like off the ice,
Right.
maybe had a little bit more fun than these guys do now. I think we hold a charity game here on behalf of 4,000 Accounting that once, twice a year. And fucking kids turning up with protein shakes and shit. I'm like, what is going on? Like, all the old guys are drinking pints, and all the young kids are coming in with like pasta meal and a protein shake. I
Right.
like it, but they kind of got to lighten up for the charity game stuff, eh?
Yeah, I mean, it's changed now with knowledge and the internet of, and everybody's trying to make it,
Yeah.
and at the same time, I think you got to find that balance. If I was advising my own kid or my younger self, I'd be like, take it seriously, but hockey still has to be fun, because at the end of the day, it's just a game. And if you make it, great, but as you're going for that hockey dream, you're going to learn lessons in your life, where the hockey journey is really like the training wheels for your real life. Because as sometimes that at some point for everybody, the hockey dream ends, and then real world starts. So I'm all about learning lessons and leveling up your human experience through hockey. But man, yeah, guys are taking it seriously. I don't Maybe it's not a bad thing. We probably had more fun back in our day,
Oh
but yeah, they're
yeah.
these new generation or something special.
Also glad there was no podcasts or any of that
Right. No,
shit.
so no phones back in
No
my day.
phones, no podcasts.
I thank God people didn't have cell phones when I played in Belfast, because
Still,
We had
still be
some
there.
messy nights in Belfast.
Oh, like Belfast is a great spot. We're gonna come on to that, but what we'll do, you talked about, the hockey journey and becoming a man. Talk us through your early days in your hockey journey. Obviously, you end up in the USHL before you go NCAA. But talk us through
Yeah.
before that, getting into hockey. What got you into the sport? Were you a fan first? Was it like a parent activity, or what brought Bobby Robbins to the beautiful sport of ice hockey?
My dad watched hockey on TV, but it was never really a thing in our family. And I was in karate. Actually, I was in kindergarten, 5 years old in karate, and my mom saw an ad in the newspaper that said, "Hey, there's local hockey tryouts," and she just asked me if I wanted to play. And as I said, yeah, I was willing to try anything back in those days. And as soon as I stepped on the ice, man, I felt that ice crunching under the blades of my skates, and I fell in love with it, just like we all do. And that just started it. I mean, I was on the ice, and I was stick handling in the garage, and I was dreaming in my heart and in my mind about this hockey dream of playing for the Detroit Red Wings and playing in the NHL. And so that's when it started. And it's the same everywhere in the world. Once you get the hooks in, man, you're a hockey family and you're a hockey player. That's your identity. And I just started climbing. I found out I was pretty good at it and just started climbing the ranks. And really wasn't until kind of my early teen years where I saw that I had something special, maybe that the other kids didn't have.
So what
When
are
my
you talking, like AAA level then?
Yeah, back in our day, it was like the double A was the highest level.
Right.
And then, I was a freshman in high school, so that's like age. I forget you guys have different categories over there, but that's like a 14-year-old.
Yeah.
So I was 14, and I couldn't play for our local varsity team because I was traveling an hour. Basically, as a young guy, as a young man, my parents just drove me an hour to the big city of Green Bay, just to be a you don't want to be a big fish in a small pond. You want to be that small fish in a big pond so that you can grow and develop. And that seemed back in those days, this was in the 90s. That was the route you had to get to. If you were good, you didn't want to be the best guy on the team. You wanted to always move up to the next level. And so I ended up leaving school or leaving home when I was 15. I went to a prep school. A prep school is pretty much, it's like a university, but it's for high schoolers, so age 14 to 18.
On the
And there's
ice every
a
day, in the gym every day.
every day, man. It's a real hockey school. It's called Culver Military Academy, and so we were in military uniforms, like just doing it every day on the ice in the weight room.
I bet you
And that's
had to
when
be
I
fucking disciplined at a military
big
prep
time,
school,
big
eh?
time discipline. Yeah, big time discipline. And I get into it in my book. I actually got in some trouble there, and so I was an idiot. I got kicked out my senior year, my last year of high school, where I started at the bottom of the barrel and I started climbing up the ranks and got better and better and better. And all of a sudden, coming into my last year of high school as an 18-year-old or 17, I didn't have the awareness of consequences. So, some guys had a bunch of alcohol and we were drinking, having a big party. I was never looking in hindsight to say, well, what would happen if I would get caught? Okay, I would get suspended for half of my senior season, and
Right.
that would affect my hockey career. Because at this point, I wanted to play Division 1 hockey. I wanted to play for the Wisconsin Badgers. But so I always try and talk to these young guys coming up to say, hey, like, there is something about being serious. Like you said, they're showing up with protein shakes instead of pints. There are consequences to our actions. I didn't know
100%.
that then, and just a stupid mistake, and I ended up getting kicked out of school, and so I had to come back to northern Wisconsin to my small little town, and luckily I did find a place to play at the AAA level, midget AAA, but really took a step back in my career, and kind of your reputation is important in hockey. So now I became the guy who they gave up on, or maybe I felt that, or I was projecting that out, like, oh, they've given up on me. I'm the druggie now, or I'm the drunk who got kicked out. I'm the booze bag. And so I had to kind of fight against that stigma and that label, and keep climbing my way up, and ended up having to go to junior tryouts and got cut from a bunch of junior tryouts until I finally stuck and kind of made a team in like the third level down, junior, tier 3 junior A. There was a league out in Montana. This known to be like a fighting league out there, the AWHL. And so that's where I really cut my
How much
teeth
fun
out
was that, by
there.
the way?
It was the best year of my life, man.
Yeah,
We
I
won the
bet it was. No, that sounds fucking awesome. Yeah, like,
yeah. Montana, if America's kind, I don't know what the comparable would be in the UK, but when you're in America, you go out to going out to Montana is like it's this romantic notion. You're going, it's all the mountains out there. So you're kind of going out into the wilderness, into the mountains to start your journey as a young man.
Yeah.
And dude, I felt that for sure. You go out to the mountains of Montana, you're looking around, you're like, wow, this is life. I'm living it. And then you're just playing hockey all day and traveling on a bus. And we ended up winning the championship that year. And if you win championships, you get jobs, man. And then I ended up signing in the USHL, which is big time. So I made that jump really from not having any options to a year later being in big time USHL, NHL scouts in every arena. So it's
Just
pretty cool to see how that can add up just in a year of really working hard every day to see how those little days can add up.
just looking at your roster there, I don't know if you remember him from back then. He doesn't play any games, so I don't know if he was hurt or what. Andre Nish, he was a Czech kid that played on your team that year.
In Montana.
Yeah,
Okay.
little Czech
Andre
kid. He
Nish.
played with me in Basingstoke here, but he's out coaching in the
Okay.
FPHL. I was going to ask you if you saw the video. He's the fucking guy that was taking the suit jacket off, and he's on the fucking ice trying to square go the players, and he's like this fucking big. I
Come on.
played with him in Basingstoke, such a beauty. But it made me laugh. Um, what was the kind of level there? Like, obviously, another Belfast Giants legend, Patrick Dwyer. You played with him there.
Yeah, yeah.
So
I
like,
forgot he was the
there's some
Giants.
good. Like, I'm just looking through your lineup there. There's some good
Yeah.
players, right?
Yeah, I mean that was tier 3 junior A, and we'd have 3 players on that team who would go on to play in the NHL.
Yeah,
Pat
amazing.
Dwyer, then a David Prince, a Swedish guy, and then myself. And I forgot Patty Dwyer was a Giant. He scored that legendary goal where the puck went in his pants or his breezers there, and he
Yeah, he
stuck his
just
foot into the
fucking
goal.
tucked it back. Yeah,
But yeah, Patty Dwyer, he was a young guy on that team. He was maybe 16, 17 years old. And I remember him saying, this was early, man. This was like before the internet. I really didn't know anything. I had no awareness. But I remember him saying he was 16. He's like, yeah, I'm gonna be in the NHL. And I was
just
like, what?
that
He's like, yeah,
that
he's like,
guy
I'm gonna
there.
play 4 years of college. I'm gonna be in the NHL. And I was like, whoa, that's crazy to think. I didn't even see that as a possibility for myself. But he already knew as a young man to have that vision. So I mean, that's so important having that to be able to have that vision in your mind before it happens. Pat Dwyer had that, and it's no secret why he's had such a successful career and now into coaching. But he saw it back then. But yeah, that level there was, it wasn't the best in the country, but we were a good team and we worked hard. And a lot of us made that jump. Like I said, when you win a trophy, all eyes are on you. And even in the UK league, you win a trophy, all the bigger leagues in Europe are
Yeah.
saying, hey, we like winners. Coaches love winners.
You you moved on to the Tri-City Storm, USHL, that next step up. Tier 2 junior A, good, very good hockey. Did you have to try out? Were they on the phone to you after the successful season the year before? How did it play out for you?
Yeah, so successful season. They just I signed a thing called a tender. A tender is pretty much like an agreement that you're on the team. So I didn't even have to come to tryouts.
Right.
They're just to the summer before to have gone from 5 tryouts and getting cut and so much disappointment and frustration to a year later to hear and don't even come to the tryout. It just showed me, man. It showed me a little glimpse of what success could look like. But I knew I was stepping into a pretty big pond there in the USHL. And so my thing was I was never the best guy on the ice, but I was always the hardest worker. And I was obviously pretty tough. And so I fought and just checked but found my rhythm even at that level to be able to put goals in the net.
That kind of takes my next question out of my mouth, really. I'm just going to bounce back to Great Falls. You had 151 PIMs and 44 points, 22 tucks, 59 games. So you're getting a bit of everything done.
Yep.
Is that when you really start to drop the gloves, test yourself against some more veteran guys, some bigger guys, and get a bit of a feel for that? Hey, not only can I put the puck in the net, I'm pretty fucking tough here as well.
Yeah, for sure. That was it. I mean, I had never been in a fight before. I'd never,
I
like,
really
on
just
or off the ice, never fought, avoided fights. I mean, I got challenged on the schoolyard like we all do, and I would always be able to talk my way out of it and just never was a fighter. But then, going to these tryouts, but I was always boxing. So I was always in my,
so you
you know,
could yeah.
a speed bag. So my dad, one day when I was a young teen, maybe 13, 14, he set up a speed bag in our garage, and I just hit that thing. And so every day, I mean, for 2 hours, I would just hit that thing. And I think it was like a meditative practice for me, but
Yeah.
it definitely helped my fighting, because when I got in my first fight, I just beat the absolute piss out of this guy, and found out that I could fight for some reason. And so when I went out to Montana, yeah, I got challenged, and I was known to be one of the toughest guys in the league, and fought the big boys in that league, and really showed that I could fight. And then that followed me into the USHL, where I fought. But that's what made me different, is I was a player too, so I could play and score
That's what I was
goals.
going to
But
ask.
yeah,
Did you have
so I
to?
always had that combination.
I was going to say, I know from the way I played a very similar way where I'm going to chuck in 40, 50 points, 9, 10 scraps a season. Did you have to find yourself picking your spots a little bit? Because I would sometimes get challenged by guys. I'm like, dude, you're here just to fucking fight. You've played
Right.
you've played 4 seconds in the last 3 games that we've played you. I've scored 9 goals in the last 3 games against you guys, so I'm not gonna fight you. But it's not because I'm scared. It's not. I'm fighting in the car park. It's fine. Like I don't mind. Like it's nothing to do with that. But on the ice, when you're scoring 22 goals in that junior season, you're a valuable commodity on the team. Like so,
Right.
every time that you then fight, you're sat in the box. How did you? How did at such a young age? How did you play that balancing act?
Yeah, I mean, I had a coach who really helped me in that regard. Ricard Granberg. He now coaches in Finland, top league in Finland for Tappara.
Oh wow,
Um, yeah, so
you're legit.
he's legit. He's had a really successful career. He coached in the Swiss A League, and yeah, he's taken over that program in Tappara. And he was a man. He was just a young guy. He must have been just out of college. He played D1 at St. Cloud in Minnesota, and so he was really helping me a lot, just in everything. Man, how important is it to have a transformational coach? How I look at now how big of a difference a coach can make in your life and in a career. And he had both of those. He affected my life in a positive way, and obviously my hockey career. But he was telling, he would tell me, like, you don't have to fight every game. You don't fight this guy. Leave that guy on the ice. And he would warn me, when we were going to play Bismarck. He's like, "Hey, they got this guy. I heard he's going to be coming for you. So he's a cheap shot artist. He's going to try and jump you. Just be ready." So he was that mentoring role, telling me how to do it, because he was a tough guy as well and played a hard game. But yeah, that just, and then you learn by experience.
Yeah,
I one day I jump a guy, take a bad penalty, get suspended, miss a game or two, and you're like, "Oh, I thought I was sticking up for my teammate," but then he pulls you aside. He's like, "Hey, here's a better way to do it. Instead of letting your anger take over, and you jump them, and you take an instigator, and you put your team down on the penalty, you get and you get suspended." He's like, challenge him the next shift in front of their bench, and if he says no, run around and smash guys and make them fight you.
yeah,
He's like, there's a way to do it. So that, I mean, that's wisdom. That takes
yeah,
time and experience. But I just started learning it there. And then, I mean, I don't think I really learned it for sure until late in my career when I made the NHL. Then I pretty well had it figured out. I just had an instinct inside of me, that voice where I knew, oh, now's the time to fight.
yeah.
It was like something that can't be explained, but I just knew it. I could feel it in my instincts.
What did the next year have in store for you? Because obviously you're in the USHL. You're talking about, Paddy was like, I want 4 years NCAA and then I'm going to the fucking show. Like you're talking like shows a million miles away for you. You're not even entertaining that. Were you thinking you wanted to go to school? You thinking you want to go to major junior? Did you have any sort of idea where you wanted to go? Or obviously five tryout cuts a year before. Are you thinking, fuck, let's just get through this season and see what happens? What was the kind of game plan in the mentality going in?
I mean, looking back, man, I mean, Patty Dwyer, he's visualizing 4 years in the future. He's going to be in
Yeah.
the NHL. I was like, where am I going to get my next pinch of chewing tobacco? Like,
Yeah, for sure,
what's?
right?
I didn't have any awareness. So I was just at that point, I was just living day to day,
Yeah,
And then again through Ricard, my coach. It was now him saying, putting in my ear, he's saying, "Bobby, you're a good hockey player. I think you can have a career. There, you have something special." Just keep playing every day. He really instilled consistency. Early in my career, I would have like some games I was really good, and some games I was garbage. So I had to learn the consistency game, and then that's as you get to the higher levels, it's all about consistency. I mean, a quote that my coach with the Providence Bruins, Bruce Cassidy, who coaches Las Vegas, he was the same way. He was really a transformational coach for me. And we would have talks, and we'd talk about consistency, and he'd say, but Bobby, you don't have to bring your A game every night. Some days you can't bring your A game, but you got to bring your B game.
Yeah.
So that's like, okay, even if I feel like garbage, my legs don't work, I got a sore shoulder, I'm sick, I got to find a way. If I want to be a true professional, I got to bring my B game and be really good. I got to be good today, because it'd be easy to play your F game.
Oh,
In
yeah.
in our grade school, we have A, B, C, D, F. F is failure, A is excellent, but B is good. So I always remember that you can't always bring your A game, but you got to bring your B game. You got to show up whether you feel it or not. And so that was just early on learning that consistency, and then that would follow me into college as well. When once you get to the D1 level, that's big time hockey. And man, if you're not consistent, you're going to be out of the lineup because there's another player who's ready to take your spot.
Let's fast forward then to college. So you end up at UMass Lowell, NCAA Division One, fucking top standard college hockey in the US. Had you spoke to any other schools, or like were UMass kind of the front runner? What made you end up deciding to go to UMass?
Yeah, I mean, when I was in the USHL, I was still figuring out who I was as a hockey player. So I was the first half of the season, I was still trying to play that meathead goon role and
Yeah,
that,
just be tough as
chasing
shit.
guys around. And I was like, I'm the toughest guy in the league, and asking guys to fight. And finally, my coach, Jim Hillman, great guy from Minnesota, he said, Bob, he pulled me in one day. He said, Bobby, he goes, I think you can have a long career. You're a good hockey player. He's like, you just got to play hockey. Stop focusing on fighting. You don't have to be this big goon. But I felt like that's the identity I had. That's the role I had. I had to like magnify that. I mean, I had a lot of insecurities and doubts within myself.
Same.
And I think I was projecting that outward to be like, I'm the toughest. I'm the toughest. Where I finally it clicked and I was like, there's no fighting in college hockey.
Yeah, what the fuck am
If
I
I,
doing right now?
what am I doing here? So I'm just gonna halfway through the season after that talk, he really showed me that I was a good hockey player and I didn't have to be that idiot on the ice, and just to let my game speak for itself. And then when the fights happen, I know I can handle myself. And so I really focused on that, and I became a really good hockey player in the USHL. And that's when I started. It was late in the season. A lot of my teammates were getting college offers, and I didn't have any. And then I started playing really good hockey, and I started to get 4 or 5 teams interested. But they were all lower level schools. But then UMass Lowell, I never really got like the big time, like Michigan or
Yeah.
Boston College or Notre Dame. I wasn't that blue chipper who was getting those big time schools, but UMass Lowell was kind of like mid to upper range. Played in a big time league, Hockey East, with
Yeah.
Boston College, Maine, New
Big Ten,
Hampshire.
like
Yeah, it's
big hockey.
big time hockey there, and it was a no brainer for me. But at the same time, I almost went with a smaller school because I felt like it would be easier. I looked at Hockey East as like, well, this thing
The
that I
Mecca.
had to that I wasn't worthy of. And so, but I finally, at the end of the day, after talking to my parents and things, I said I wanted to go for it and be in the best league that I could to try and become the best hockey player I could. So I just took that leap of faith and ended up going to UMass Lowell.
You're talking about, last year in high school, you're getting fucking busted for some drinking. Had you started taking any drugs at that point, or was it just strictly alcohol
Yeah,
before?
I was experimenting. So I was smoking weed and, pills and pretty much anything you'd put in front of me. I never had any access to hard drugs, thank God, and like cocaines and heroines and things like that. But I mean, for me, the stuff that I had access to was alcohol and tobacco and weed and pills, and pretty much all of those. All of those.
Same here.
I was a pretty clever guy. I could keep things under wraps and keep things in secret, and but the tobacco of all of those was the one that really got his claws in. And it's not as popular over there in the UK, but here in America, it's having a chew of tobacco in your lip.
So for us
Um,
here in the UK right now,
oh, there you go. Yep.
it's Vino. Like, so for North Americans that watch along, I don't know if you have them. Remember the old long cut pouches you used to get? Well,
Yeah.
these are just like there's no tobacco, so it's just pure nicotine.
Right.
Because I was the same as you, Bobby. I first trip to North America when you're 13, and I chewed for like my whole entire career after that.
Yep.
Longman, Skull, whatever it was,
Snooze.
just literally anything that had a fucking kick to it and nicotine or
Right.
tobacco. Best thing I ever did was kick the tobacco side of it and just keep the nicotine, because the nicotine works really well for my ADHD. It keeps me on, well, it keeps me on some sort of fucking level anyway.
Right.
But like you say, for me, it was tramadol, painkillers,
Yeah. Same.
and 10 for breakfast. And
Right.
my friends have two, and they're like, you know, I feel like I'm dying. And I'm like, well, and that was it. And the problem was normalizing it. Like you
Yeah.
do talk to your buddy and he fucking breaks his leg and he has two trams and he's like, whoa, right. He's not feeling good. And I'm like, I'm taking 10 to start the day.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
that's when I knew I had a problem. Like, and obviously now I barely take a paracetamol. I don't take ibuprofen. I try not to take any sort of pills if I really, really don't have to. But when you're in and amongst it, and obviously we played a very similar role. So, you know, you got a broken hand, or you've took one on the eye and you've took one on the chin, and your fucking shoulders are sore and the collarbone hurts, and you might have wore a body shot, whatever it is. You hit a lot, so your body's hurting. So there's always an excuse. It's so easy to have an excuse. Oh, my hand's sore.
Right.
Fucking way. My shoulder's sore. Wait, get some more. And then they just don't work anymore. And then you're chasing and chasing and chasing. Well, what did you find the thing that was when you went like enough's enough and maybe put the pills away?
Yeah. Well, my second year pro, so pills were always around, but it wasn't like I was kind of an opportunist. If something was around, I would do it, but it wasn't always around. I wasn't really hanging around like real drug users. It was athletes who would have, hey man, I got a Vicodin. That's our pill here in America. I got a Vicodin, kind of like a tramadol, and you take that and just kind of melt and feel good. But I remember so we were doing that all through college, and then it got into the partying, where you're drinking alcohol and you're taking painkillers and snorting painkillers, and
That was the thing as well.
so we were all down that, or I was down that road, but never really got out of control. Didn't never got out of control. It was just kind of a once in a while,
A
once in a blue
recreational
moon,
kind of.
recreational for sure. And now looking back on it, but after seeing people and friends of mine and people that I know who've died, on alcohol and painkillers and things like that, I'm just thankful that I think God was watching out for me. But um, it wasn't until my second year pro where a buddy handed me a whole bottle and said, "Hey, you want these?" And I was like, "Yeah, I want those." So then it was bus trips.
Yeah,
You're on the bus for
they're
12
the worst.
hours, and I just love to take some painkillers and just melt into my seat. And I remember I ran out of there was like one refill on there. I had him get me the refill, and then after that ran out, I felt withdrawal for the first time, and I did not like it, man.
Disgusting.
Did not like it at all. And I wasn't super deep. It would be like, two here, two there. So I was able to kick it after a few days, but I remember thinking, I was like, oh, that's some hairy stuff. But then the next year in Belfast, I kind of got into it again, with the tramadols you guys have over there. So I got into that, and then when I made my comeback, I kind of I cleaned up my life really. I got off tobacco and I got off weed and stopped drinking as much, and pills too. So I just kind of I recognized that those were a negative force in my life, and was able just to say I'm not interested, without getting addicted. Really, the only thing that really had me by the balls was tobacco, and then later in my life was weed. Actually, had me pretty deep by the balls as well. Um, but yeah, for me it was pills were just an easy thing. And for me another big one was sleeping pills too.
Oh, okay.
Um,
I tried
so
to
it
not
was
fuck with those.
yeah, man. I don't mess with pills anymore, man. I'm actually working on my own sobriety. I really think for me personally, sobriety is a superpower for me. But I still struggle and have fallen back into, going back to my old pile of vomit that I secretly love. But um,
Yeah.
I'm trying. I mean, these days, thank God, I'm sober, and I'm sober minded, which is important for me. As I'm doing this book and doing business, I want to be sober minded. I don't want to be influenced by these drugs anymore. I've spent my whole life being influenced by these drugs, and it never ends well for me. It never
How
ends
much
well
of
for my
it,
marriage.
in your experience, how much of it is, that bravado bullshit when tough guys, we're all the most fucking insecure motherfuckers that
Yeah, right.
ever meet on on the planet. and we project this toughness, and we project this, if no fear, fight a lion, do anything, but you can't look at yourself in the fucking mirror.
Right.
And I found a lot of that was that. Like, it was a lot of self-hatred, a lot of self-loathing. And you take these pills and you escape, you wash them back with some whiskey or something. You're
Yeah.
young, you're naive. How much of it did you find was that? And then I think the older I've got and the more acceptance of myself and where I am in my life and how comfortable I am in my own skin compared to maybe when I was in my early 20s. And I think actually stopping playing was the big factor for me, and kicking the pill habit and
Mm.
and other things. How much of a factor do you think that played in, like, you taking pills or you taking alcohol?
Oh, for sure. I mean, I really go deep into it in my book. I'd love for you to read my book, man. I
Oh,
think
I'm gonna
there's
get a copy for sure.
yeah, there's something in there for you, man. And it's for me, I had just identity, man. I had identity issues. I was, I'm Filipino, Spanish, Irish, German. A big
What a
beautiful
combo
mutt.
right
Like,
there.
what am I? Like, part of you is like, oh, we eat all these Filipino meals at our house, so we have that culture. And then the other is like, oh, we eat bratwurst at our house, and it's the German culture. And I'm the only brown kid in my town growing up, and the
Yeah,
only brown kid playing hockey. And so I really struggled with identity, and that just followed me throughout my whole life. And then you know, I get the sex part of my book is a very deep and intimate glimpse in my book. I had a lot of sexual brokenness, sexual confusion, sexual identity confusion. And so I think for me, I got into pornography early on and just kind of had a broken sexuality. There's only one way I can explain it is brokenness. And I think for me, I had that too. I had shame, self-loathing and looking into the mirror and abuse and um, drugs. It was the natural progression from that
yeah,
because they keep things hidden. They appease the pain. And so I just loved melting, just like, oh, melting into my pillow.
yeah.
And
I was a big melter myself as well. Yeah,
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 and
I was a
that's
big
what
melter.
I guess one of my big ones was sleeping pills actually. So yeah,
What
it
was
was
that,
it would
like
just
Bam Bams,
just
like
melt.
Ambience, or
Yeah, Ambiens, and I would over here they have something called what is it called? They're called Tylenol PMs.
okay, yeah,
So it's like a slight painkiller, but it also has a Benadryl type
like a drowsy kind of effect.
relaxant. Yeah, drowsy, makes you drowsy. And so I would just melt, just melt every night. And I think I had a lot of that shame, and that's what a lot of my book and my whole life story is about is facing those demons and finding out what is my true identity. Is my identity, is it a sexual identity? Is my identity in the drugs I take? Is the identity in the hockey that I play? And for a long time, I thought I found my identity. I finally cleaned up my life. I got off all the drugs. I became a legitimate pro. I got freaking jacked, man, and I got
Yeah,
my
you're a
mind
beast.
finally cleared. And I was like, I have a dream. I have a destiny to make the NHL. And I found my identity as the hockey fighter. I was the savage. That was what they called me, savage. I found that identity, and
It's
that's
not a
when
bad nickname, Bobby.
it's pretty
I
badass.
mean,
Take it.
as nicknames go, like
Right.
Savage is right up there.
So I found the savage. I'm like, that's who I am. So like I'd wake up in the mirror, I'd wake up in the morning, I look in the mirror, I'm like, I'm the savage, man. I'm on a destiny chase to fight my way to the NHL. And then, everything was going good for a few years, and then, it fell apart very quickly with an injury, with concussion, and just pretty much losing my mind and going into a manic state of darkness, depression, post-concussion syndrome, suicide, right back to drugs and alcohol, like just numbing the pain.
Oh, they're
And
always there in the background, right? Even if you're in
yeah,
sub any of my friends that I know in sobriety are fucking they're one phone call away from
right.
10 years back in the hole.
I
Right.
have it all the time here. Even like I'm like, oh, if I get that phone call of this and this situation, I'm first thing I'm doing this,
You're on a
So those
heater.
thoughts are those
Doesn't
thoughts
go
are
away.
always there. But I lost my identity as the savage, as the hockey fighter, and then that's really what the souls part of my book is about. Is now I'm going to find out who am I really? Am I just a
Yeah.
guy who's really good at body checking people and punching people in the face? And so I started asking a lot of the big questions and being like, what am I? Is God real? Like, what is this all about? And that's where I really started my spirit quest, I like to call it,
Okay.
of
Interesting.
realizing that I'm not just a bag of bones and meat, that God actually did make me and created me for a purpose. And so that's once I found my identity um, in Jesus is that I'm a child of God. I found that identity, and all the lies, all the anxieties, all the self-hatred all just melted away because for the first time I felt the love of God flood me and show me who I really am. It's kind of like I have sons. I have two sons, 3 and 1 years old. I freaking love them, man.
Yeah.
I love them so much. I hold my son. I'm like, I love you, you know? And so that's the same love that God has for me. And so now I know my identity. My identity is somebody who's loved by the God who created me. And so, man, my whole life has been kind of this a quest to get to that point, and my quest is still going. I have some big dreams, but once I was able to find out who I really am and why God made me, uh, all those insecurities, all the sexual identity confusion, all the sexual brokenness, the addictions, they all went away. And I'm still battling the addiction side of things,
Yeah.
but the sexual stuff that really broke me and was always whispering in my ear, that all I was able to recognize all that as lies. And and so now I have a peace that really is beyond all understanding. I didn't know a peace like this could exist, and it can only exist because I found my true identity of who I am.
Couple of follow-up questions based on that. First of all, were you religious growing? So for me, I don't have any faith. I'm an atheist. It's so I have plenty of friends that, Catholic, Protestant, whatever they are. I have a couple of Muslim friends, and everyone's got their own kind of take on why they were religious, or it was how you grew up, the whole family were, or the ones that I find more interesting are you had no faith growing up and then you find it. Where was your kind of angle into religion, and like what is your faith?
Yeah, man, you got to read my book. It's gonna blow your mind, man. So, I was brought up in like the Christian church, but it was kind of like it was the traditions, the church, and I recognized early on. I was like, this is bullshit.
It's
Not
not for me.
interested.
Yeah.
This is stupid. This is fake. This is bullshit. So and I rejected it early on, and a lot like you, I became an atheist, and I didn't believe in God. And I was just, I was my own God. I was going to live my own life.
Yeah.
I don't need anybody to tell me what to do. And so I think I was like 14 or 15. And my parents are still very real, that word religious, for me to define that word religious means that you do the rituals. You go to the church,
Church on Sunday, you do the
you
thing.
take the thing, you do the thing, you drink the thing, you bow the thing, you do all this stuff, okay? So and they're still that that's who they are. I didn't want any part. I was a punk rocker, man. I
Yeah,
was
just
like,
living your best
fuck
life.
the system, fuck the world, I'm done. So I just rejected God altogether, and kind of carried that through into my 30s, and I was the same way. And
Okay.
I guess into my 20s, I would say I got a little more the quote spiritual. I started smoking a lot of weed and kind of experimenting with psychedelics. And I documented in my book in chapter 4, I had a very profound psychedelic experience. I don't know if you've ever done
I
psychedelics.
I'm a massive advocate of
Okay.
psilocybin,
Yeah.
whether it
So
be microdose, macrodose, done in the right way. I can't wait to hear your story, but talk about profound experiences. Fuck yeah, like seriously will change you as a human being.
right. And I had an experience in college that profoundly changed me forever on psilocybin. I ate some mushrooms in my college library on the fourth floor. Had a crazy experience, man. Had a crazy experience. Um, yeah, can I read a little bit to you? How
I
much time?
I I'd be pissed off if you don't.
We got
Like,
time here or what?
oh, we got all the time in the world, baby. All the time in the world.
All right, dude. Let me read this to you. So this experience followed me for the next 10 years. So I had one psychedelic experience, and it would follow me for 10 years. Okay. I'll read maybe like a 5 minute section.
Mate,
Is
do
that
your
cool?
thing. I'm
All right,
excited.
man.
I'm excited, like so excited.
All right. So get the picture here. I'm oh, page. So I'm a junior in college. I just had a big year, big time. I put
What's
up
that,
some
like
big points.
2021?
So I'm 23 years old now.
23.
It's my third year of college. I have 1 year left. I just set a big year, and I'm on the map now. I'm on the hockey radar, okay? And then this happens. So, and I'm also an English major. So I'm an English major, so I'm learning writing like this is real literature that I wrote, and I wrote it myself. And so I was, studying, I was doing hockey, but I was also studying very hard to be a legitimate writer. So this is what happened. I have to study for a big American literature exam. I'm so far behind on my reading that it's going to take a miracle to catch up, and an even bigger miracle to get a good grade. I'm not worried about not passing. I can do that without studying, but I want A's and I want to be the best. That's just how I've always been in school, an overachiever with some underachievers' habits. In my usual fashion, I wait until the last minute and then give the witch a call. That's the code name for my drug dealer. She's another student here and usually has the good stuff, White Widow or some good potent stinky buds. But this time I call her up to score some Adderall. I figure if I put in a solid 7 hour study session, I'll be equipped to get a good grade on the test. I'll sit there on the fourth floor of O'Leary Library and read for 7 hours, buzzing off endless cups of coffee, giant dips of tobacco, and a couple of Adderall pills, one chewed up and swigged down with the black coffee, one crushed up and snorted up into my nose and brain folds. I stop by her apartment near the library and she hands me the pills. Hey, I do have some magic mushrooms if you're interested. I can give you an eighth for $40, she mentions as I'm leaving. I've always wanted to try psychedelics, but never had the chance. I leave there with 2 Adderall pills and a bag of shrooms, enthralled. I find my seat on the fourth floor of O'Leary Library on South Campus. This is my fortress, my security blanket from the rest of the world. I come up here all the time to study and sit for hours and get engulfed in a sea of books and winding bookcases. I wander and look at all the titles on the spines and see if any catch my eye, putting book titles and sentences together to form cryptic messages from the universe of the great unknown, searching for a sign, searching for something. It's always so quiet up here, my secret sanctuary, home of the English department, where I can get away from the dorms and away from the rink and away from everyone. No one's ever up here at night, aside from a stray student tucked away in a dark nook and reading romantic fiction, or a couple of stoners wandering through the aisles of endless dusty books. I have my little perch in a cozy corner with the most comfortable couches overlooking the quad. I'm surrounded by books. It's silent. It's perfect. It's the exact opposite of the Songus Arena on the other side of campus, where I go to war every day and lay it on the line until I feel like I'm going to puke, and then have an ice bath and a protein shake and get ready to do it all over again tomorrow. And I love the grind. I love the hard practices on Monday and Tuesday. I love the bag skates. I love the weekend and showing up to a packed house and playing against Boston College, against all those NHL draft picks and chasing them around the ice and hunting them like the filthy animals that they are. I exist in this dichotomy between savagery on the hockey rink and competing at the highest level in college athletics against the best teams in the country, being the most feared and most physical player on the ice, then showing up to class on Monday and sitting through Poetry 101 and personal reflective writing with Dr. Roberts, where I pour out my heart and bleed all over the page. This is where I learn to write, where I learn that I can write, that I have a voice. I know even now at UMass Lowell that I'm going to have a story to tell. I wonder what my life will look like. I take out my history of 20th century American literature book and clear out a spot on the desk in front of me, preparing to snort those chemicals up my nose and study like the wind. But something is burning a hole in my pocket. Those mushrooms. Maybe I should just eat those things and see what happens instead. I know enough that I can get a decent grade on the test, maybe a C or a B, or who knows, if I write with enough flair, maybe I can squeak out an A minus. As the dialogue chatters in my head, I've already pulled out the sandwich bag and opened it, and I'm examining these 5 little dried mushrooms that look like petrified worms with long bodies and tiny round heads. They seem harmless. Screw it, I say, as I pop the first one into my mouth and chew it. It tastes like old dirt. It's not bad, but I'm not interested in the taste. I'm interested in the magic. I eat all of them one after the next and sit there knowing I just ingested a ticking time bomb. I've watched enough psychedelic movies, The Wall, Yellow Submarine, Natural Born Killers, and I heard enough stories that I kind of, sort of, but not really know what to expect. I take out a notebook and decide that since I've already taken the leap, I might as well document it and make some sort of scientific study out of this experience. After all, I'm an English major. It's settled then. I'm going gonzo journalist style tonight. Fear and Loathing on South Campus.
Oh, I love
5:40
I love that
5:45
reference.
p.m. Was that?
I love that Fear and Loathing reference. That was
Yeah, oh
a
yeah.
classic.
I'm going gonzo journalist style tonight. Fear and Loathing on South Campus. 5:45 p.m. Ingested 1/8 ounce of dried psychedelic mushrooms, and I sit there and wait. After about 20 minutes, nothing is happening, and I wonder if I got a bad batch and maybe they aren't going to work. Then I notice these strange things flickering. I'm seeing these flashes of light out of the corner of my eye, like something is trying to break through. I start to get hot and I'm sweating now. I put my focus on my notebook where I'm documenting this adventure. 6:10 p.m., starting to feel funny and seeing lights appearing and disappearing. 6:30 p.m., starting to feel something happening. Keep seeing these lights breaking through. Even as I write these words, I see the shadow of an ancient frog monster on the page. It's there, the ancient frog monster, inside of a shadow cast on the page behind my hand. It's moving and watching me from the shadows on the page. I look at it. It knows I see him. 6:50 p.m. I got to get out of here. Now I'm feeling very uncomfortable. There's this undeniable feeling that I need to get out of the library. I don't know where I will go, but all I know is that I got to get out of here. I pack up all my books and coffee mug and pens and paper into my backpack and get up to leave. The fourth floor is empty, and all I hear are the echoes of my shoes pitter pattering on the marble floor between the vast aisles of books. There's a small nook with the elevators and bathrooms, and I decide to regroup in the men's room. I go to the sink and splash cold water on my face. I'm feeling very hot. I look at myself in the mirror and I look fine. I seem normal. I don't look like I'm on drugs. Then I turn my head to the left. I see this foam on the wall where a soap dispenser used to be. Someone must have torn it off. There's a white sticky membrane of foam adhesive. I can't believe what I'm seeing. It's alive and moving and looks like tentacles floating in the stale air of the bathroom, like a hand reaching for me. And the tentacles are floating there and look like some underwater psychedelic sea anemone. I'm astonished. I'm bent over now and my face is inches away from the foam adhesive. I'm blinking my eyelids together tightly and reopening them to see if this is real, if what I'm seeing is really happening. Blink open, blink open. It's still there. It's still moving. My only thought is that I need to get back to my seat in the corner of the library and I need to get there fast. I don't know how long I've been in the bathroom staring at the foam adhesive on the wall. It could have been seconds, minutes, or an eternity. I don't know. I open the door and exit the bathroom, and now the entire scene has changed. Where once stood old dusty books on metal shelves, now all those bookshelves go on forever, and they're all glowing with life and pulsing energy and neon colored beams of light. I get back to my seat and I cannot believe what is happening. I can't believe this exists. I'm experiencing an entirely different realm of reality. Everything is glowing. The entire world is breathing in and out with an ebb and flow of cosmic energy. I get up and walk endlessly through the glowing maze of bookshelves. Neon lines of light are passing through the books and down the aisles. I walk to a random book, and it's glowing more than the others. It's pulsating with energy and beckoning me. I pull it off the shelf, and it's titled From Ape to Angel. I know that this is a message from something, from somewhere. I open the book and the pages are melting and breathing. I see the paragraphs and black fonts of the words, but I'm seeing beyond the words. All I can see are the white spaces between the words and letters, connecting and flowing together, making rivers and tributaries like tiny veins. And there's this energy moving through the capillaries between the words and between the worlds. It's pumping through those spaces. I don't know the cause of it, but it's something that's alive. I can see for the first time the life behind the words. The flow of energy coalesces into a clump of glowing fluorescence, and one sentence is pulsating and radiating. I focus now on the words themselves, and I read a sentence that says, "All life stems from the frog." This is it. I've been shown the secret of everything. I say the sentence out loud, and the energy on the page and the glowing lines of energy surrounding me become more heightened. I'm overwhelmed and laughing and crying. All I know is that I have to sit down. I find another nook close to where I'm standing and sit there and stare at a huge concrete wall in front of me. Underneath is a big carpet with tribal designs on it, and it's moving and breathing too. I'm sitting there and staring at this concrete wall, and I'm taken all the way back to the beginning of time, through that magic carpet, through that magic carpet, through those ancient epics, to the start of everything, the beginning of life itself. And there, in a small pocket of existence, is the ancient frog. I see him there at the beginning of time, and then I warp back to where I'm sitting in the library. I'm given the gift of knowledge that I'm a child of the frog. I come from him. At this point, I realize that I'm in such astonishment that my mouth is wide open and tears are streaking down my face. Sometimes I come back to reality and realize that I'm laughing out loud. I put my hand over my mouth and cover it tightly, try and hold it all in. I picture someone coming to check on me and seeing one of the D1 hockey players crying and staring at this concrete wall on drugs, and it's breathing and morphing into all kinds of shapes and patterns. I let my hand drop to the marble floor. The mysterious marble turns into the green skin of some ancient reptile, and it's moving underneath me, slithering so slowly, and it's enormous. My hand takes on a life all its own and begins to dance on the skin of the monster. My hand is twitching and performing this strange dance on the green skin, contorting and twisting, and suddenly starts to melt and disintegrate. I watch in horror and wonder as my hand dances and turns into dust. An eternity passes in mere seconds, and it crumbles into nothing but ashes. It just keeps getting more and more intense. I turn my face toward the concrete wall and sit back into my chair and see something coming into view in the textures. It's Jesus hanging on the cross. I can't believe what I'm seeing. I blink my eyelids tightly over and over and open them. Every time I open them, I see him hanging there. It's really there. I don't think this is just a hallucination. I go up to the wall and inspect it, and there are all kinds of shapes and patterns, and all of them are moving and breathing. But right there in the middle of the wall is the faint outline of Jesus Christ hanging on the cross. It looks like it's transposed in there like the Shroud of Turin. It's undeniable. He's hanging there. I don't know what it all means. I stopped believing in Jesus and Santa and the Easter Bunny and all that religious bullshit years ago. I'm having all sorts of magical thoughts relating Jesus to the frog and somehow that I'm a child of the frog. Whatever it means that I'm set apart. There's something special about me. I've always felt that there was something different about me, something about my perception, something about my soul. There is something different. Now I know. From this moment on, I will worship the frog god. He will bring me great strength and power. I'm weeping, sobbing tears. I come to this conclusion. I just had an encounter with God, and he's a frog god. And Jesus was a child of the frog, too. But for some reason, I've been chosen to do something great in this lifetime. Before every game, I'll say this prayer: Sweet frog, please bless me and protect me and allow me to see in green and see in all directions. I'll pray to the frog god every day from this point on. I'll worship the frog god and receive his power, the ability to dominate my opponents. The power is real. This is God revealing himself to me. I'm writing absolutely insane things in my notebook, trying to keep up with these thoughts and psychedelic visions. I saw the truth, a lie, on a picture screen of clashing colors and quilted sparkles drawing me closer. deeper to the surreal serenity of the inner workings, the gears grinding on a machine, a clock perhaps that keeps the world ticking like a time bomb, or maybe a pendulum which keeps the beat to a 4/4 quarter time symphony of pain and ecstasy, of love and hate, real feelings, or just an act of cut and reshoot scenes we pay to see. I saw the dragon's silhouette probing and pushing on the screen. I saw the flow of the tower of knowledge soaring upward, people floating, try and take hold but slipping away. Is it the lubricant that keeps the machine running, or that which keeps us from taking hold and slipping? I feel like I'm slipping deep down that rabbit hole. At 10 of 9, I ate 7 6-inch stems. Approximately 5 hours later, for reasons unknown, three angels taught me how to attain one vision of infinite zero. I write, I write, I write. And right as I finish the last sentence on the page, something so strange happens and it signals the end of my trip. As I pass between worlds, a thought comes into my mind that says closing time. And at the exact moment that I think and write the word closing time, an echo of someone yells up the stairwell, closing time. And it's said so slowly and dramatically and bizarrely that it causes my heart to skip a beat. I can't explain what just happened to me. I drive back to the apartment so paranoid that I might get pulled over with my eyeballs rolling around in my head. I set my cruise control to 27 miles an hour and coast through the back streets of Lowell. I return to my apartment knowing that all life stems from the frog and that I'm a child of the frog.